just, and then the mother didn't even know she was pregnant, just because of, when that egg and sperm came together, some critical information wasn't transmitted that made a crucial enzyme for that neuron to talk to that neuron, this. So by the time a baby goes through a normal pregnancy and gets to 9 months, a lot of things that were supposed to happen happened, and that's a pretty strong baby, so once a baby's born, we don't worry as much. We don't encourage the mother to have a beer or whatever, obviously, but if she wants a glass of wine or something, we don't see any problem, obviously, within, and if she wants one, we'll have her she'll breastfeed, take the glass of wine after she breastfeeds, and again, in moderation, and we're not seeing trouble with that. But again, that's because that baby is now born and thriving. Does that answer your question? Yeah, so think of that electrician idea and developing. It's still developing.
I want to go back, Doctor, to the criticality of the first 3 months after birth. I had a little baby Julian. Her first 3 months was terribly physically pain, including head trauma. At 3 months, she was rescued. That's my word. And thereafter suffered no further physical damage. After 5 months, she was placed with a family member, so they really started then building on the pyramid. She's now 3.5
years old.
Yes, 3.5 years old, and as far as we can tell, there are no lingering effects from the physical trauma. My question, sir, is can you express an opinion as to the likelihood of some kind of psychological scarring from that very early experience?
Yeah, I bet there's a structure deep in our brain called the amygdala, and it's part of that autonomic nervous system, and that remembers, that puts things in context. That's why when you go to walking around in the park, whatever, and you smell a certain smell, it reminds you of a barbecue that you went to back in 1962. You know what I mean? The nerves from the nose go right to the amygdala. So it's very base memory. Or when you walk in and you see a snake on the road, it goes right to your eyes and it goes to the amygdala. You remember that. And then that sets up the autonomic nervous system. You've heard that fight or flight phenomenon. Like if you're at home at night and you're reading a book and you hear a sound in the basement, your pupils dilate, your heart races, you get a little cold sweat. That's the autonomic nervous system kicking in. And then you realize, hey, wait a second, the cat's down there, probably knocked over a bucket of nails. I'm fine. And sure enough, 2 seconds later, the cat walks up. You go back to reading your book, your pupils constrict again, your heart slows down, you read your book again. That's the autonomic nervous system. That was damaged, that circuitry, that hooking up was damaged in that child. Now, how well will her neuroplasticity fix that? I hope well, but obviously she was caught early, so that's good. And again, that brings us, I'm not trying to dodge the issue, but again, that brings us to the individuality again. So hopefully she'll do great. But I bet you she'll probably have some emotional issues. We call that amygdala hijack. Like I bet you when she's 6 or 7 and she's with a group of friends and she's in a room and some car honks real loud outside, she'll jump and be more excitable than the other kids. Bet you, look for that. Look for that. I bet you there's going to be, there's going to be a price to pay for that. How big a price? God knows. But somebody like you, working on it, that's the whole idea of CASA, is to try to, fix what was broken. So there will be damage. I bet you there's going to be damage.
Related to the alcohol question, what would we expect in the children from the mothers who are very heavy smokers, cigarette smokers?
The thinking on smoking is the nicotine is a vasoconstrictor. The molecule of nicotine, there's a receptor for in the blood vessel that makes blood vessels shrink. So there's blood vessels to the placenta. The mother's uterine arteries, arteries go to the placenta and feed the baby. Well, if those vessels are constricted, the placenta is fetal tissue. It doesn't get blood. And therefore, it doesn't get a rush of nutrients to the baby. And that's one of the reasons we think kids with fetal alcohol syndrome and mothers that were heavy smokers were SGA, small for gestational age. Like a kid born at 38 weeks is supposed to be 7 pounds, 1 ounce. That kid was born at 38 weeks is 5 pounds. The mother was a heavy smoker, small for gestational age. And the thinking there is not that so much that the nicotine is toxic. It's not great for the nervous system, but it's not toxic. But it shrinks the mother's blood vessels, which then shrinks blood flow to the baby. And where does the baby get nutrients? The mother. So that's where cigarette smoking is so bad, because it constricts blood flow to the developing baby. And then, again, messes up the electrician. Go back to the electrician. The electrician wanted to finish that room, couldn't do it because it didn't have the right tools that day.
Negative sleep habits, what are some of the things that we should ask?
The sleeping is one of the 4 I always ask about, because over evolution, we've developed enzyme systems in our brain that respond to photons of light. Keep in mind, the Earth is 4.5 billion years old, so over evolution, we've developed these systems. And photons come in, electromagnetic radiation comes in, and it stimulates enzymes. Enzymes pick up that ray of electromagnetic radiation, and it turns them on, and it puts us in an awake learning state. Sun sets, photons drop, we move into a rest, restorative state. And also, it's been shown that things that we learn today, we're going to store tonight. So that's why I always tell my college patients, don't stay up to 2:30 or 3 cramming. You're not going to remember it. If you have a class from 9 to 10:30, your next class is 1 p.m., go to the library 10:30 to 1. So this way at 10:30 p.m. you're done. You don't have to study. So that kind of circadian rhythm, day-night, so you've heard that term, circadian. We follow the day-night, the sun, moon cycle. So for a child to, go to bed and I always tell parents, to be their mother, be their father, not their best friend. In the sense of, I want them to, give them a story, give them a routine. Again, going back to Piaget's sensory motor, they learn by repetition. Give them a routine, dinner, some family time, goof off in the living room floor, play, whatever, and then bath, fresh pajamas, bottle, a story, put them down, leave. And if that child can settle themselves, and part of developing is the ability to console yourself, settle yourself. Like we all have sleep-wake cycles. We have like 3 or 4 night, 90, 100-minute cycles. You've heard of non-REM, REM. And we do that too. Like we as adults will wake up from 1, 2 a.m., oh my God, 2 a.m., put ourselves in the next cycle. Where these babies need to learn that. They need to learn, they're gonna have, fetuses have cycles. Fetuses have REM, non-REM sleep. They know this from neat studies. So they need to learn to console themselves. So for an sleep, comfortably, have that story, get a kiss and then kind of nuzzle and go to sleep. That's why I don't recommend co-sleeping. That's where the baby sleeps in the parent's bed. I'm personally against reasons, God forbid. It has been reported, and it's true, where mother or father, no child abuse, will literally roll over. And babies have died. I mean, no child abuse, nothing. But and then God forbid, the parents are dead asleep, and the baby falls off the bed. That happens too. So I never recommend, they call that co-sleeping. I never recommend that. But the other reason I do it is because part of developing is developing independence. So I want them to be able to settle themselves, console themselves. So when they do get up from one of these natural cycles, non-REM goes to REM, and then there's a little a little wake period where we then go into the next cycle. I want them to be able to do that. So that's why I ask. I said, how's the baby sleep? Oh, the baby sleeps great. I give the baby a bottle, I tell the baby a story, put him down, out in 15 minutes, and I don't hear from the baby till the next morning. That's great. That's great. Go on Oprah Winfrey. How do you do it? That's what you want to hear. But when I don't hear that, the baby will not go to bed at night. Cries. I gotta lay with him. I have to read him 12 books. Who's in control there? So that kind of thing. So that's why I bring sleeping up as an issue, because it gives me an idea of how well that child's central nervous system is evolving.
When a child has suffered some of the trauma that we see with all of the children that we deal with, do they lose that ability to self-console? Has it messed up that whole rhythm? And how can a child be helped to get back to?
Well, you go up Maslow's pyramid, go there. And then what we suggest there is to read them a story, and then I'll have the parent stay in the room. I'll ask them to get like a chair like this, and get like a little snake lamp, and just sit and read a book of their back is to the child. They've done the story, they've done the kiss, they make sure the blanket's good, the pillow's comfortable, and then they lay in there, and then I'll have them roll. That way the child can look up and say, okay, I'm expected to stay here. Again, back to Piaget, learn by repetition. I'm expected to stay here, but I'm not abandoned. Again, perception, perception comes with maturity, so they realize that they have to keep maturing. So that's what usually helps there, is that way they give the kid the message, you're not abandoned, stay there.
What about night terrors and trauma
yeah.
that a lot of these children
Sure.
experience there?
Night terrors, that gets into that autonomic nervous system I was talking about. And what I say there is a night terror, the car went off the cliff. Don't try and grab the child, make sure they're safe. Go in there and be sure their head isn't near a sharp corner of a table or something, or God forbid they're not near a window or something like that. Be sure they're physically safe. But don't try to stop it. That will just that's kind of amygdala hijack I was talking about earlier. That will just kind of burn itself out, and then they shift into the next cycle. So don't go in there and hug them and squeeze them. You're going to be okay. You're going to be okay. That will just make it worse, because they think they're being constrained. So I go in there and make sure they're physically safe, and then I just stand there and be sure that they're safe physically, and let it burn itself out. But unfortunately, kids with that will have, dreams, or it's kind of an emotional safety valve. It's almost good that it allows process. We're sleeping. We move into our subconscious, is where we get into Freud's work. We move into our subconscious. So dreams are good. Our body is working constantly even while we sleep. So dreams, in a way, are good. It allows us to work things out. But I don't try to stop it. I let it burn itself out.
One more question about a developing baby. What would be the effect of not the pregnant woman smoking marijuana, but of others in her house smoking marijuana?
Like secondhand smoke? Not as bad, but still bad. Because that's the whole problem with secondhand smoke, is a lot of those chemicals get into the non-smoker, but it would be a concentration. Because obviously the person smoking it gets into the lung. If you, somebody actually calculated this, if you spread the lung out, the absorptive surface of an adult lung is the size of a football field. It's like the ocean. I mean, it's just, when you lay out all the capillary beds and everything. So the lungs are a great way to get medicine. You may have heard that the drug company now came out with a insulin that's an inhaler so that people don't have to give themselves a shot, because they're using the lung as a vehicle to get medicine into them. And that's why patients we treat with asthma, these inhalers are fantastic. You know, albuterol, Advair, these are fantastic because they get the medicine into the patient so beautifully. The lung is a beautiful, because the membrane down the alveoli where the oxygen we breathe in mixes with the CO2 coming up from the cells. I mean, you're talking nanograms of thickness. So it absorbs so quickly. So when somebody, takes, some crack or marijuana and she's pregnant, a large amount gets into her, and then placenta into the baby. Where if you're in a room and so it's concentration, still not good. Not good, so obviously to be avoided, but nowhere near as bad as taking the drag themselves.
A child who is on this scale, the pyramid, and is progressing well, and then experiences severe childhood abuse and neglect, does it negate everything that happened before?
No.
Do we go?
No.
Is the child?
No, they're easier to fix, so to speak. It's like the house was damaged, but the foundation is still there. So no, they're easier to fix. That's why, kids I take care of that are in divorced families, if they've been raised well, even in perfectly normal families, divorce is very traumatic to the kids, even adult kids, like kids that are 21, 22, and their parents divorce. It's even affects them. Not to mention your 3-year-olds. But they're easier. You have them see a counselor for a little while, and they adjust pretty easily because their a self-esteem is so good, and then they probably by that age, their 20s, maybe have done some self-actualization. They've seen what they can do as an individual, so they're proud of what they can do, and they're sorry for their parents, but that's what they did. Again, perception. So no, that's why that hierarchy is so important, because I think it does build, but it's important to keep going up and not get stuck.
One thing I'm struggling with, and I guess it has to do with this primary relationships. If a parent's rights are terminated because they find that the parent just really was not good for the child, and the child, should the child be able to still be in touch with that parent?
Oh, I think so. Oh, sure.
Even if, that's kind of what I think, but then.
That's how I think, at least supervised or whatever. Oh yeah, because there's that imprinting, Yeah, there have been stories of horrible child abuse in court cases. Linda may have heard of some of these too, where the judge said, Johnny has to be taken away from the mother, and the child is lifted up and carried away by the marshal, and the kid is clutching towards the mother, and this mother had beaten the kid and given him alcohol and whatever. But there's that imprinting. So yeah, I think to have them have exposure, and obviously get the adult help, and have it a supervised visit. I would definitely. That's why we, jail when parents are incarcerated, we still encourage family visits.
And what if the parent isn't so into it?
Then that
would you still try to encourage it, or you almost?
I would. That's something where that would be a social worker's expertise. My idea would be to try and make it happen, but there might be really good reasons why in that case it shouldn't. Then I would understand that, but the thrust would be to try and keep that connection. You got that, DNA and that connection.
Thank you.
But-
That unfortunately is
Oh,
going
sure.
to have to
Oh,
be
sure.
the last
Oh,
question,
okay.
but thank you so
Oh, my
much.
pleasure,
It
my
was
pleasure.
incredibly informative.
Oh,
Really,
good. Well,
really
thank you. My
appreciate
pleasure. It's wonderful work that they're doing.